Habs draft Uri Slakowski. Was it a surprise or not? They also trade for Kobe Doc. What's going on in Chicago? The Brinket to Ottawa. Again, what the hell's going on in Chicago? And free agent frenzy recap. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? All that and more coming up next on the Face Off Hockey Podcast. Hi guys, I'm Patrick. This is my co-host Scott. How's it going today?
Greetings. Very, very hot. Coming to you live from Key West, Florida, the southernmost point of the continental United States. And it is hot down here. But from what I hear, it's hot everywhere.
Yeah, it's pretty nice here too, but I'll be honest with you, I'd rather be on the beach than in my apartment. But anyway, so let's get this started. So big day, big draft, 2 days in Montreal. Seems everybody had a great time, and round one had a lot of action, probably because of the Canadians. So that's the big news. They draft Uri Slakowski. Was a surprise. I mean, after talking and hearing what a lot of scouts have been saying, and just the fact that Shane Wright, that the Kraken already had a Shane Wright jersey ready to go, leads me to believe that this was kind of expected. Although the Montreal crowd, as soon as they said from the Slovakian national team, there was a big, oh my God, going through the Bell Center. I mean, he got a little bit of booze, but, because a lot of people thought we would draft Wright. But you know what? I mean, this guy's 6'4", 220 pounds, already looking great in development camp. So, I mean, I think that's a great move, a great draft for the Canadians. They also ended up drafting his best buddy, Philip Machar, who is probably more of a shifty playmaking. He compares himself a little bit to Mitch Marner. Probably has potential to be a second line right winger. Again, he has to put on a bit of weight, but him and Slakowski are best buddies. They went to on vacation in Turkey together. So that's pretty cool for both of them. And also another Slovak went second overall in Nemec, who went to New Jersey. So I don't know. What do you think about all that? Big day for the Slovakian national team.
Yeah, definitely. And it was definitely a surprise that the Shane Wright went as low as he did, low for not exactly a draft bust, but you said this. What was it? 6'4", what, 230, 240? You said
220.
220. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, 220.
So I mean, in today's NHL, like that's great. A big power forward with all sorts of skills, and speed, and size. Like that's what you need. Kind of where just the numbers alone speak. Jaromir Jagr, who of course one of the legends.
A top 10 player in the history of the NHL, probably.
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. He made a funny tweet today, by the way. I don't know if you saw that. He basically made a tweet, 50-year-old free agent available. Just funny. I gotta love the guy. But yeah, so and you never know who's gonna end up doing what in the NHL. We talked about last week, with the exception of your Sidney Crosby draft and your and your Connor McDavid draft, even, how many number one overalls, and this is not, anything about him or whatnot, but I'm just saying, how many number one overalls have amounted to nowhere near what we thought they were going to be? It's happened a lot. So that being said, how many stars have we seen, from lower in the draft or second, third, fourth round? You never know who's going to amount to what. So the Habs found a major hole that they thought that was the best player in the draft, specifically for what they needed, and they took it. So Shane Wright went fourth. He had some very interesting, sour grapes comments about going as low as fourth. Maybe he just didn't want to go to Seattle. I don't know, but. In any case, he's now playing. We know he's going to be out there with a chip on his shoulder, and it should be very interesting when they come to Montreal for the first time next season.
An attitude might have something to do with why they drafted Slafkovsky first
Very
overall,
possible. Very
but
possible.
it also made a lot more sense because only about 15 minutes later, they made a three-way trade, trading Alexander Romanov to the New York Islanders for their 13th overall pick and 60-something pick overall, and then immediately flipped that to Chicago for Kirby Dach, who was number 3 in the draft the year that you guys drafted Kakko, and that the Rangers that New Jersey drafted Hughes. So, he was expected to be the second best center in that draft. Hasn't done much so far. He had only 20 something points last year. Clearly hasn't reached his potential. But here's another guy, 6'4", 200 pounds. So clearly the Canadiens, and he can skate like a wind. So clearly the Canadiens are trying to, add some size, some skill, and some speed to this team, which is something that Marc Bergevin wasn't able to do in 10 years up until he signed Josh Anderson. And he might be moved out just because for salary cap situation. Although I'd keep him, he only has a cap hit of about $5.5 million. Not many guys play like him. There aren't many guys that size that skate as well as him and that have a shot like that. So he might be moved, but if we can have a 6'3" guy on our first line, a 6'4" guy on our first line, and a 6'4" center, that's looking pretty good to me.
Yeah, no doubt. You definitely had a phenomenal draft day. You guys definitely won the day. You had that obviously the number one pick overall, and then a phenomenal trade on top of that definitely opened some eyes and dropped some jaws around the league. So with what you guys have coming up for the next couple of years, you gotta love. Again, I told you Jeff Gordon's the absolute man. And he's on the clock from day one in Montreal. There's no give me 3 years, give me 3-4 years. In reality, that's what it's going to take. But he's on the clock on day one, and he had an absolute fantastic game.
Yeah, well, Kent Hughes said they're trying to accelerate the rebuild, so that's where the Kirby Dach trade comes. They got a guy that they think could probably be their second line center, even if he's not ready to be that just yet. Next year he'll be our third line center, and then if Christian Dvorak sticks around, then he'll be centering the second line. But what the hell's going on in Chicago, man? I mean, they traded Alex DeBrincat early in the day for nothing. So I mean, Ottawa's laughing all the way to the rink after signing Claude Giroux also. So I don't know what the hell is going on in Chicago. They're clearly going for the tank to try and get Connor Bedard next year.
Yeah, they're going for the tank, and they're unloading everyone with the exception of their two biggest names. And on top of all that, they went out and signed Max Domi today. So what are they thinking?
I don't know. I mean, and DeBrincat and Kirby Dach are two guys that you could build around. So
exactly.
They're really tearing it down and starting from scratch.
Yeah, and so apparently, so Kane and Taves have been very upset since they traded Marc-Andre Fleury last year, and they both made something you don't see in the NHL very often, where they didn't demand a trade publicly, but they did say, I don't know what the future of this team holds. They said they literally said, we don't know what's going on here. We don't know what's going on with the future. Oh, that your two stars, are very unhappy. So on top of that, they're unloading everyone else. They're loading up on draft picks. So that's obviously the direction they're going in. And, apparently Kane said that he wanted to trade, and I'm sure Hayes either said it as well, and it just hasn't been reported, or he's next to do so. And then the GM came out today and said, he's talked to the players, he's talked to their agents, or I think it was Kane's agent who said that they were in touch with the GM, and the GM said he wants to let the quote unquote let the dust settle, see how part of the season plays out. I mean, your two biggest guns that you're going to get, the most for. You're not waiting. You're waiting to trade. So I mean, I don't know who the GM is in Chicago offhand, but his days might very well be numbered. You got to pick a direction. You're rebuilding or you're not rebuilding.
Their senior advisor, Scotty Bowman, just resigned today because he was their senior advisor for 8 years. So they're just tearing it all down. I mean, obviously he's getting up there in age. He's in his 80s now. Legend of the game, obviously probably the greatest coach that ever coached the game of hockey. But
and he's jumping. He jumped ship today.
Yeah,
so
I think he's done. He's retiring though. He's gonna take it easy in Florida, wherever he lives.
And he picked the right time to do so.
Absolutely.
Because you got to get direction. There's nothing wrong with a rebuild. Montreal's doing it. Rangers just did it. It has to be. It's a reality. In a salary cap league, rebuilds happen. So that's fine. But you can't do it half-assed. You're either rebuilding or you're not. And you got two major guns that are going to get you your prospects to build build around. We're going to get you first and second round picks. And they said, we want to hold off and see how the first half of the season plays out. I mean, they should have fired the GM on the spot.
I don't think Jonathan Toews would come out and publicly say he wants to trade, though. He's just not that type of guy. But, you know, behind closed door, I wouldn't be surprised, you know, if he wants to get a shot to win another Stanley Cup somewhere.
Yeah, Kane didn't say it publicly, but the reports are out there. He probably let it leak to whoever without, you know, to try and keep his own nose clean. That sounds like a bad thing to do. So in any case, you know, well, what is management thinking not putting these two guys on the block when you put literally everyone else on the team on the block? No, I don't get it. I just don't.
Yeah. So let's jump into free agency. I think Ottawa had a great day. I mean, with the DeBrincat trade signing Claude Giroux, they're definitely, like we said last week, we need to make the playoffs this year kind of mode. You know, they've been rebuilding for like 5-6 years now. It's time for them to turn the corner for sure.
Yeah, and they definitely showed a lot of signs of improvement in the second half of the season. They were not the same format of a team. They showed signs down the stretch of almost, if that team and that effort was there from the beginning, of competing for a wild card. Now, of course, by the time it happened, it was too late. But so they are done screwing around, and I would put Ottawa and Detroit as my two winners of the day in free agency thus far. Of course, we got a couple huge guns still out there, but so I guess we'll talk about Ottawa. So Claude Giroux going home, signing with the Senators, and that's obvious. He was with Gaudreau still out there, not signed yet. That easily makes Giroux the biggest signing of the day so far. And that's you parlay that with the trade with the Blackhawks, and Ottawa is definitely putting something together there.
Yeah. Speaking of Detroit, like you said, they had a good day signing Andrew Kopp to a 5-year deal, Ben Sherratt, which breaks my heart. I was hoping maybe he would come back to the Canadiens, but he would just make us better, which is not what we want. They also signed Kubalik and David Perron, who finally leaves his second stint in St. Louis to go to the Wings. So yeah, I mean, also, they've been pretty close for a couple of years, and they definitely want to, try and make the playoffs as soon as next year.
Yeah, no, definitely 4 nice, juicy signings. As I saw firsthand what Andrew Kopp could do for the Rangers in the playoffs was very, very instrumental. Got him at the trading deadline. Like I said last week, the Rangers were a playoff team battling for first place going into the trading deadline. Got Andrew Kopp as well as Vetrano, and they were both instantly on the top 6. So it's kind of amazing when you my lovely woman Sharon. I'll let Sharon say hello. Okay, we got
hi, Sharon.
Thank you. Patrick says hi, and thank you for the Devils input. Devils on the in the waiting game right now. We'll get to that in a little bit. So Andrew Kopp, I saw firsthand what he could do. Very instrumental, big piece of the Rangers. Within 2 wins finals run. Sad to see him go, but we kind of knew it was going to come. Andrew Kopp was basically, he was kind of under the radar in Winnipeg there, basically giving his resume to the league with that Rangers run. So good for him. Loved him in the short time we had. We had him. Best of luck to him. And he joins the Red Wings team that much like Ottawa. The Red Wings, we're not used to seeing the Red Wings where they are. The Red Wings from the early 90s on were in playoffs. I think they had set a record, in the modern era for most consecutive playoff
20-something years. Even 20 years.
Which is insane. So we're not used to seeing the Red Wings down at the bottom, which is where they've been. And obviously they don't want to remain there for very long. So big day for them. Them and Ottawa definitely looking to get back into contender status as early as next year. So good for them, and best of luck and on Detroit. That is a team that I don't hate. So good for him.
Yeah. So jumping into the Rangers, I think probably your biggest signing of the day was Vincent Trocheck, who is definitely going to be your second line center, assuming he can stay healthy, even though injuries haven't been a problem for him. But I definitely think he's an upgrade on Strome.
He's absolutely an upgrade on Strome. Strome, Strome was a big question mark with the Rangers. There's a Rangers Weekly show that I'm a part of, and we were complaining about Strome pretty much all season. And and in the playoffs, he just completely dropped the ball. Now it came out, afterwards that he was playing with a pretty serious pelvic injury. And I don't know if we talked about this, but we know what these guys play through. The hockey players, they're warriors, especially when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah.
But at what point does an injury, does playing through an injury, become detrimental to the team? And I think it was pretty obvious. He was just missing open net after open net. He had an easy game winner in game 4 or 5. I don't remember which one. With about 5 minutes left, presumably would have been the game winner to put us up 3 games to 2 or 3 games to 1 in that Eastern Conference Finals. I mean, just on the doorstep and just couldn't put it in. And of course,
that was
face-offs is the Rangers just are awful on face-offs. Zibanejad, he's not great, but at least he's certainly got other talents. But I'm looking at Trocheck's numbers right now: 52.1% lifetime, 54.62 this past season's 56 before that. So we finally got a face-off guy, which we are so desperately needed. I think it's definitely an upgrade. Only had himself 51 points on a first place Stanley Cup contending Carolina team. However, Carolina is not really known for their offense. And he will now play with Artemi Panarin, who is a 90-point guy. So you can expect that point number to go up, and more importantly, winning those faceoffs. So I'm very, very happy.
Or maybe with Lafreniere, even though he's a left winger, maybe we'll switch over to the right or one of those two guys. I'm sure a lot of Russians like to play on their off wing as well.
That's going to be interesting too, because everybody was, the kid line was the star of the show, but with their ages, Lafreniere was not brought to the Rangers to be a third line guy. And he showed that he is ready to enter the top 6. Exiting of Copp and Vetrano definitely opens up the spot for Lafreniere, because he played, in his first playoffs this year, age 20. He looked like he was a 27-year-old. He looked like he won a Stanley Cup before. That is how comfortable he was out there in the playoffs in his first shot. So you can expect him on the top 6. Hedl, Kakko, very possible one of them might not be on the team next year. If these Patrick Kane rumors go anywhere, because, I don't know. I mean, the Trocheck signing is nice, but again, we're losing 2 top 6 wingers in Vetrano and Copp. So I don't know. I would be okay with losing Kakko. He's 21 years old. Don't misinterpret that. He's not a bust. He's not a bust at all. However, he's already been here 3 years, and he's showing improvement, but he's not at the level where we were hoping he would be at by this point. Lafreniere is. Lafreniere, we know, okay, this is, there was the reason this guy was hyped as big as he is. This guy's ready to rock, and he's only going to get better. Hedl has finally arrived. Kakko does not look like he'll be a capable player, but from what I've seen from him so far, I don't see him being above the third line. Now, he's a very capable third liner, maybe second, but I doubt it. That being said, if you want to include him at 21 for a trade for maybe a Patrick Kane to really put this thing over the top in contention, I'm not opposed to it.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how it plays out. But again, I don't want him traded. I don't want him off the team, but would not be opposed to the trade because he just hasn't, he hasn't shown the same kind of talent that Lafreniere and Hedl have. And I just don't see it happening. I just don't.
Yeah. So let's maybe jump a little bit into the Leafs. They seem, at least they think they've addressed their goaltending problems, trading for, how do I forget his name? He was playing for Ottawa, Matt Murray, the other day. Yesterday, they traded for Matt Murray, and today they went up and signed Samsonov. So, I mean, Matt Murray, yeah, he has 2 Stanley Cups. Yeah, he's battled injuries, but there's a reason he got traded away. and that he lost his job,
Mhm.
to in Pittsburgh. There's a reason he got
Tristan
traded away.
Jarry, yeah.
Like I don't think he's an upgrade on Jack Campbell in any way.
I agree with you. I think it's basically a like for like. Maybe they're just trying to put some fresh blood in there, see if it'll revitalize the team. But what
And
they
give him
haven't
some
done,
Stanley Cup, some Stanley Cup champion experience as well, maybe leadership in the room. But he's not. Yeah, he can be a good goalie. He just needs to stay healthy, and that's not something he's been able to do for the past couple of years, especially in Ottawa.
yeah, staying healthy is key, of course. And I think they need to make some moves on defense. They are so top heavy with their salaries. I mean, look who you got making, over $10 million.
They need to trade one of these four
exactly.
guys.
Exactly.
I mean, Austin Matthews is not going anywhere. Mitch Marner probably isn't going anywhere. And John Tavares probably isn't going anywhere for that salary. So that leaves, William Nylander, who's probably the guy most likely to move if they want to go out and get themselves a top defenseman, because that's what they need.
Yeah, I'm looking up his contract right now. And not to mention the other three that you mentioned, not only they can't go anywhere because who's going to who's going to pick up any of those contracts? They would have to eat salary there, which wouldn't help them with the cap space.
I mean, they got two guys making over $10 million, I believe. I don't know if Matthews is making over 10, but if not, then he will be soon. Mitch Marner is making like 9+. So
Nylander's making Nylander is 6.962 against the cap every year. That's a tradable contract.
For sure, especially for what he brings. He scored 30 goals last year. He had his career year, so his value is definitely at a high.
Yeah, what you need to do there is see if you can find a suitor for that, and then either put a $7 million defenseman in there, or since you are so top heavy with that lethal offense, maybe a pair of maybe a pair of $4 million defensemen that aren't known for their offense, because in today's NHL, your defensive defensemen don't get credit. You think of defensemen, you think of the Norris trophies. It's always points heavy. It's not really plus minus or stay at home defensemen that are in the people want to talk about, and then that means they're cheap. Your Camel Car now. Your exceptions to the rules, guys that are great on both ends, your Camel Cars, your out of boxes, etc. But for the most part, your stay-at-home defensemen come cheap, and that's what they need to do. If they're gonna go from one slightly above average goalie to another, and they're not going to put a star goaltender in there, an elite goaltender in there, and they got to shore up that defense. And because have no plans on doing it. You got to get a pair of $4 million, stay-at-home there, and give him some help. That would really put this team as potential to go past the first round.
Because they have a solid first pairing of Morgan Rielly and Jake Muzzin, but after that, they need some, they need a 3, a 4, defenseman. They need a solid second pairing if they want to make some noise next year in the playoffs, because their first pairing is fine, even though I think Jake Muzzin, he was battling some injuries. I think he got hurt also midway through the first round. So that obviously that didn't help them. But yeah, I mean, they're right there. They got the offense. They just don't have the defense or the goaltending right now. And that remains to be seen, if Matt Murray and Samsonov can go fix that for them. But I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. So speaking of Jack Campbell, who's off the Leafs, the Oilers were clearly in desperate need of an upgrade in goaltending because Mike Smith, clearly not the answer. He was just atrocious. So now Campbell signs with the Islanders for 5 years at $5 million per, and that's an upgrade for them. I think. That's another team that needs defensive help. Obviously, any team with Connor McDavid on it's going to be top heavy. You can have the best defense in the league, and you're still top heavy if you put Connor McDavid on it. But that's definitely an upgrade. The question is it an upgrade enough to make them a serious contender. Because I didn't have them as a serious. They did make it to the conference finals last year, but I didn't have them in the serious category.
Yeah.
I didn't expect them to not only win the Battle of Alberta, but in 5 games no less. But nobody was really taking the Oilers seriously outside of Edmonton, I don't think.
Yeah.
So the question is Jack Campbell the answer in that? Maybe.
I don't know. I mean, last year, when they played the Canadians, he had some good games, but as soon as they took a 3-1 lead, he basically crumbled under the pressure. Yeah. He let in some soft goals. I mean, goalies, it's really, sometimes takes him a bit longer. He's still a young guy. He could get better. But who knows? But another surprising move by Edmonton is that they were able to keep Evander Kane.
Yeah,
I thought he would have been on the move, but no. I mean, he fit in well on that team. Either playing with Draisaitl or McDavid.
Mm-hmm.
Can't really ask for better centers.
Yeah, three names this year, and it's funny because all of them controversial, and all of them were basically on, I don't want to say last chance, but all of them were on probationary contracts. Mm-hmm. You had Evander Kane, one of them, and all three of them worked out. Evander Kane in Edmonton, that worked out. All three of these guys were on their best behavior. The other being Nazem Kadri, and we'll get to him in a second because he's still unsigned. And then the third, of course, being Tony DeAngelo, who was on that 1 year, 1.5, I think was making. And then the Hurricanes ended up trading him for a couple of draft picks to Philadelphia, and this is going to be interesting. Tortorella and DeAngelo on the same team. Get ready for some.
That should be fun.
Phenomenal press conferences. And possible fist fight on the bench during the game. It's going to be great.
But and then
only in Philly can that possibly work. It can possibly happen.
But then after Carolina went out and traded for Brent Burns.
I'm glad you brought that up. Let's talk about Carolina for a second, because all we keep hearing is about the defensive surplus that they have, the defensive surplus. Defensive surplus to the point where they pretty much gave the Rangers Adam Fox for a second-round pick, and everybody knew Adam Fox was going to be a stud, and they gave the Rangers him for a second-round pick. Obviously, the Rangers win that trade. Well, I can't. Let me backtrack on that. I'm not sure who the Canes drafted with that second pick, but we'll just say it worked out well for both. So they had obviously very good. They had the best defense in the league this year because they had the goaltending carousel, and they still were the number one goals against team. Now all of a sudden you're down DeAngelo, you're down Brendan Smith. Didn't like him on the Rangers. Fit in nicely in Carolina. And you're down. Who else did they lose? They lost Max Domi on offense. Trocheck on offense. So you lost two of your 6 starting defensemen. Not to mention 2 big guns on that team. Now, Carolina, in my opinion, is in some trouble. This is not going to be same Stanley Cup. I think they're still a playoff team, but I'm not, they're 3 years or 4 years, the last 3 or 4 years in which they were a legit Stanley Cup contender. I just don't see them in that same elite category next year.
And they have no defenseman coming up the pipeline either, because their owner said when he first bought the team that we are not drafting defensemen. So they're not drafting defensemen. They're only drafting forwards. I don't know, I didn't really take a look at their draft this year, but if that's still the case, and they gotta go sign some people, but they're in cap trouble.
And that's why they can't resign these guys
to a freaking 8-year contract at like a $5 million cap hit. I don't know what they were thinking there. I mean, the Canadians screwed up on Jesperi Kotkaniemi. They probably should have sent him back to Finland for a year. They rushed his development because that's what the previous regime liked to do. They didn't develop players; they rushed them into the NHL, and wondering why they didn't pan out to who they're supposed to be. But Carolina's in some cap trouble too. So we'll see what happens there next year.
I'm looking at their roster right now, and according to their roster, because I guess they've still got guys unsigned, they've only got 4 defensemen. Jacob Slavin is obviously leading that defensive core. Brady Shea and other Rangers, I don't want to use the term reject because he didn't fit in there, but he obviously found a great home there. And then that's it. Ethan Bear and Brett Pesce is top defenseman as well. So they've really got 3 defensemen now They don't have a defensive surplus. Oh, and they just traded for Brent Burns. Yeah, not only is Brent Burns 37 years old, but he was always in that same category of your your Mike Greens, your Eric Carlson, your PP Subans. Again, like I mentioned a little while ago, just defensemen who are known for their generating offense.
Yeah, so he was drafted as a forward, right? So
yeah, exactly. So you got Brent Burns would have worked, I think, last year. Basically, they got Brent Burns to replace DeAngelo with that offense. But I think that doesn't help them on defense.
And he's got like an $8 million cap hit. Maybe I'm biased, but I maybe would have went instead for the Canadians who have been trying to trade Jeff Petrie. He wants to go back to the United States because he has some family members that are unvaccinated, and when you're coming to Canada and you're unvaccinated, you still have to quarantine. So there's a big problem for him. Especially for his wife. So I think that would have been a good spot for him, and it would have been a cheaper contract for them as well. And yeah, he can bring the offense. He never put up he had a couple of 40-point seasons. He played great for the Canadians up until last year, but nobody had a good season for the Habs last year.
Right.
But now, when it comes to Jeff Petrie, we'll see what happens in Dallas, because that's probably the other landing spot he could go to if they're not able to re-sign Klingberg. So we'll see what happens with that, because there's still a lot of big names that are unsigned. Like we're talking about Nassim Kadri, Johnny Gaudreau, Kadri.
Kadri and Gaudreau. What else do you need?
John Klingberg still unsigned.
So I guess might as well start with Gaudreau. They're obviously there's zero chance of resigning in Calgary, obviously at this point.
And they just had a press conference and they're saying they're very disappointed because they offered him 8 years, almost $11 million a season, and he rejected it. So clearly he wants he wanted out of Calgary. He wants to go back to the United States. It's very hard for Canadian teams to re-sign American free agents, which is why I'm surprised that that Jeff Petrie re-signed with us twice.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and as a Ranger fan, I am terrified about all this, because supposedly, as of a few hours ago, it was between the Devils and the Islanders. The Islanders have signed absolutely nobody, even though this is not the same Lou Lamoriello that built the 3 Stanley Cups. New Jersey Devils, and even the team, even the Lou Lamoriello that somewhat put together the Toronto Maple Leafs and made them relevant again. I don't think it's the same Lou Lamoriello, in his glory days, but he still knows what he's doing, I think. And so you got to wonder what's going on with the Islanders with absolutely zero signings, and this is a team that didn't make the playoffs last year, and so far they haven't done anything to get better. And maybe they're putting all their eggs in one basket with this Gaudreau thing. So whether he goes to the Devils or the Islanders, it's a no-win situation for me, because the Devils, as I mentioned, are just about ready to rock, and that was before Johnny Gaudreau entered the conversation. Now I still think they need a goalie. They did go out and sign, I forget who, or they made a trade. I forget who it was. Was it check?
Sorry, let's look through the list here. Free agent.
No, it wasn't a free agent. It was a trade. Devils trade for goalie. Vanacek from the Capitals. So maybe it's an upgrade from Mackenzie Blackwood, but that's not exactly a heir to the Brodeur throne there. Whether like we've talked about, if you put together a solid team, you don't need an elite goaltender. Case in point, once again, Darcy Kuemper wins the Stanley Cup. Not even on the team next year.
Yeah, who just signed with the Capitals.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if Vanacek is the answer, but the Devils are going to be scary next year, and they may very well be adding Johnny Gaudreau to that. He's a Jersey boy from South Jersey, Philly area, so a lot of people thought Philly might be in that conversation. They are apparently not. And again, everything is just according to rumors and reports. According to the word on the street is Philly is not in the conversation. It was down to the Islanders and Devils, but Now I'm hearing that Columbus is now in the conversation. They higher offer. I haven't been able to corroborate anything. I don't remember who said this. But just somebody I know said it, and he's usually pretty good with this. But again, everything is just all reports.
Yeah.
But supposedly 7 years, 12 million per for Columbus, which is significantly higher than the Devils were offering. The Devils, I believe, were offering 10.2, and I don't know what the Islanders were offering, but especially in the New York, New Jersey area, if you're going to live in those areas with the cost of living and the taxes, an extra 1.8 mil per is sounds pretty sexy. So
yeah, can get you a nicer condo in Manhattan.
Exactly. So here I am as a Ranger fan, trying to take my hating shoes off and be objective when I can. But I'm not going to lie, I'm really hoping I hear that Columbus announces they signed him. Very, very interested to see where he goes.
Yeah, but they're in your division too, so I mean, it wouldn't help you guys that much.
Right. But Islanders and Devils are my
big rivals,
Leafs and Senators for you. So
exactly.
You're seeing the Senators. I'm sure you were not happy about the Giroux signing to Ottawa.
I don't think Giroux's the player he once was. Clearly not.
No.
But I think he'll fit in nicely in Ottawa. Even though they have two smallish centers now, Claude Giroux and what the hell's his name? A German kid they drafted a couple years ago. It's terrible. I should know his name. But anyways, there was a lot of memes going out about him diving like a soccer player because he's German. So soccer mentality. Anyways, I love football, so let's not talk about that. But all right. Other quick signings, I guess. For instance,
I'm going down.
Pittsburgh, they were able to re-sign Evgeny Malkin.
Yes.
Who that would have been definitely the biggest name on the market today, but he ends up staying 4 years in Pittsburgh, so I'm sure they're really happy about that. He didn't want to go anywhere anyways, so he's probably happy about that. But again, they're nearing the end of their their window. I think their window's closed, to be honest with you. I mean, Sidney Crosby's still the top 5 player in the game. Malkin's been battling injuries for the past couple of years. Has not been able to stay healthy. They re-signed Chris Letang. I don't know what they're doing there. They're clearly still trying to bank on their veterans, but
I think they signed Ricard Raquel, which is a big move for them.
And they lost
that window. What's up?
They lost Rust as well.
They did. They lost Rust. They re-signed Raquel. So, I'm sure they would have liked both because as I saw firsthand, Rust was very dangerous against the Rangers. I was not aware that he was as good as he is, but the windows. Exactly. Yeah. The windows, it's not closed, but it's closing. Yes. Sidney Crosby is still an elite player, but Malkin is not. He is no longer, no longer consider him an elite player. So they can still, Sidney Crosby can still raise the Stanley Cup with Pittsburgh, at some point in the next 4 years, I'd say. But the difference
Crosby's 34 years old now?
Yeah. So you never know what happens later in these guys. I mean, he is concussion prone. One big, as we saw in the playoffs. I'm sure that he probably should not have come back late in that first round against the Rangers, but he did.
Jeopardizing his career. And you know what? I don't think he's a guy that's going to play until 40. I know after his last couple of concussions, his family was asking him to retire.
Right,
so
exactly.
His wife,
So you've got, maybe we'll call it 3 years of potential Stanley Cup, caliber play out of him. But the difference now is that you need to put a lot more around him to make that team Stanley Cup caliber
anymore. Right. Yeah, two-way player. He still wins face-off. He's still, an elite playmaker, two-way forward, probably the best all-around player we've seen in our lifetime.
But he now needs a lot more support than he's ever needed in his career. That's only going to keep going in that direction. So Pittsburgh needed to make a lot more noise than they did. In fact, it might not even have been against their best interest to let Malkin walk and look into a replacement by like Kadri or whatnot. I don't know. I'm not the GM, but it is what it is. Malkin and Crosby will most likely finish their careers in Pittsburgh now, but we'll see if they get them the support that they need to put them back in the Stanley Cup contention, because I just don't see it happening this next year.
Another interesting note, he's not a free agent, but he made it clear that he's not re-signing next year is Pierre-Luc Dubois, who's all around the trade rumors. And today on an interview, his agent said he wants to play in Montreal. Now, I would take him on my team any day, but what will we have to pay them if we were to trade for a guard like Pierre-Luc Dubois? I think we'd have a better chance at signing him as a free agent next year. And yeah, like Ken Hughes says, he wants to accelerate the rebuild. That definitely would accelerate the rebuild. You know, our four centers would be, although Dubois probably wouldn't stay, but it'd be Suzuki, Doc, Dubois. Not bad for top three centers, if you ask me. But yeah. I mean, we need to get, the Canadians need, because we've seen it. You need top draft picks multiple years in a row. Not just 1 year, multiple years in a row. And like we were talking about last year, you take a look at teams like Tampa, at Colorado, even at the Rangers, Pittsburgh. They all drafted their stars, and that's what you got to do. You got to draft your stars in today's NHL. Yeah, you can sign one here and there, but that's not how you build a team. You build through the draft. You build your core through the draft, and that's what they have to do.
Yep, and absolutely, no argument there. This just in, Carolina has made another trade with the Golden Knights. They receive one of your exes, Max Pacioretty, and Dylan Coughlin for future considerations. Wow. So looks like Vegas might actually be in salary dump or rebuild mode as well.
They're also in cap hell, And after not making the playoffs, maybe the magic of the expansion draft is over, and they have to start building a team the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, no, exactly. The clock has struck 12 for Cinderella, and they need to now do it like everybody else. The one thing about them is, as I said this from day one. Now, I have not been to Vegas yet for a game. I was impressed with the little show that they put on, because of course it is Las Vegas. I know that your hockey, some quote unquote purists, don't like the whole gimmick. I do. Hockey. We all have the light shows now. With the on ice displays, everybody does it. So you know what? If everybody's gonna do it, Las Vegas has to do it better than everybody else. Of course. So I got no problem with it. I had no problem with them changing the rules of the draft, because as we already saw, hockey in the desert is already an epic failure down in Arizona. So if you're going to try it again, now obviously Las Vegas is not of nowhere, Arizona, because they screwed up. They didn't put the team in Phoenix. They didn't put the team in Scottsdale. They didn't put the team in Tempe. They put it literally in the middle of the desert. They really never got a fair.
My buddy lives in Glendale, and there's not much around there.
No, there's nothing.
A nice go-kart track and some paintballing.
They don't even charge for parking. That when a professional sports team does not charge for parking, you got problems.
The Senators don't. Have you've been to the arena? Right?
I have. I've never driven to the arena before. I always park at Don Cherry's and take their night.
Yeah, they don't charge for parking, but there's one road in and out. So if you park in one of their parking lots, you're gonna be waiting an hour to get out of there. It's pretty ridiculous.
I remember calling for an Uber, and we actually had to walk outside of the arena to meet the Uber guy.
The Kelseys.
I don't remember where. I just remember the Uber driver saying, "I can't." This was the playoff game, and I remember him saying, "Can't get into the arena. Could you come to whatever street?" And we had to meet him, a couple blocks down. But so back to the Pacioretty thing. I'm looking up his contract, $7 million per AAV. So they just picked up two guys making 8 and 7 against the cap, Carolina. So I mean, you want to spend, I get that, but they were in salary cap hell. You got to wonder now, because Max Pacioretty is not what he was. I mean, this is 2014 when he was on Montreal. When I remember that series.
I mean, he had a season of 39 39 goals, 33 goals, 39 goals, 37 goals, 35 goals, 32 goals. He just had a career year also points wise with.
Okay, so you obviously have a stats up, which I'm doing now. How old is he? He's 33. All right, so all right, so
he's still got some good years left ahead of him, and he still has that shot.
6'2",
But
217.
he probably doesn't have the pace he did have, because that was one of his strengths. He was always a great skater. Never very physical though. Never really used the size, especially after he got killed by Chara. But
yeah, well, Chara will have that effect on someone's career. 6'2", 217 points last year. All right, he 37 points, 39 games. That's a good year. That very short season, obviously.
Maybe the year before that, yeah, I think it was.
Well, he almost had a point per game. Playing only half the year, and then the season before, 51 points, 48 games. So he was over a point per game. All right, 66 and 71. All right, so he's a producer. So
he always produced points. He always scored goals. He's a good playmaker. He'll do good for Carolina.
Yeah, so this is.
I just don't know what the hell's going on there. They're doing it wrong. They're doing it wrong.
I was having this conversation with my friend. I got a good friend down there, a big Canes fan. We were talking about this, and he says the Canes as a unit can score. Obviously, defense was their bread and butter, and we had this conversation last week before they lost half of their defense. But Sebastian Aho, Teravainen, they've got some lethal scorers, but they don't have a 30-40 goal guy. They're basically a goal by committee type of team. And he said that's the one thing we need. We need just
35 plus goal scorer.
We need a sniper, and
that's
Pacioretty.
You can do that for a couple of years.
Well, yeah, but so the points are there. So back again, we're talking about 2013, 2014, the conference final year, 39 goals, 37, 30, 35, and then 22 and 66, 32 and 71, 24 and 40. So basically, he's on pace to be a 30, 35 goal scorer. So maybe he is the answer. Maybe with a goal by committee team, maybe he's a good fit here. I don't know. We'll find out what happens. At least they filled in a few blanks because they were getting decimated by free agency and trading of DeAngelo. So I still think they're a major defensive down, but they did fill in a couple blanks. We'll see. But for a lot of money, for $7 and $8 million. Now I understand in today's NHL, $7 and $8 million are not superstar dollars, but they're going to try and fill in the blanks from last year and basically try same formula again. We'll see if they have enough on paper. Defense was their bread and butter, and I just don't think they have the defense that they had last year.
Yeah. Well, I think that pretty much covers it for today. I mean, apart from the big names that are still out there, I think we covered most of the bigger signings and trades, and talked a little bit about the draft. So anyways, guys, this is our last show of the season. Barring any major news, we'll probably do a couple here and there over the summer and really get going again once training camp starts. And hopefully we'll have a better look for you guys. And again, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button down below. Share us on social media. Like and share, be great. And on that note, keep your head up, keep your stick on the ice, and we'll see you next season, guys.
All right, everybody stay cool out there.